Welcome everyone. Today we're going to unlock a really powerful connection. We're going to see how a concept from your calculus class, differentiation, is actually the secret weapon behind some of the smartest business decisions being made today. We are going way beyond abstract theory here. We're going to see how finding the slope of a curve is really about finding the absolute peak of profitability, the point of maximum efficiency, and honestly, the clearest path to outsmarting the competition.
Okay, let's just dive right into the core question for any of you who aspire to be a business leader. Are the best decisions born from, a flash of brilliant intuition or from a solid, repeatable strategy? Now, don't get me wrong, intuition absolutely has its place. It can be the spark. But relying on it alone, that's like trying to navigate the ocean without a map and a compass. The companies that consistently win, the ones that just dominate their markets, they don't just aim for good choices, they engineer optimal ones. And that tiny little distinction in wording, from good to optimal, well, that can translate into a massive difference on the bottom line.
So how do we find that optimal path? Well, it's all about having the right tools in your analytical toolkit. Today, we're going to focus on one of the most powerful ones, differentiation. Now, I know some of you might still see calculus as this series of abstract hurdles you've got to clear for your degree. My goal here is to completely reframe that for you. I want you to get ready to see it not as a math problem, but as a practical, indispensable tool that can give a business a serious, measurable competitive edge.
So what exactly is differentiation when we pull it out of the textbook and drop it into a boardroom? At its absolute core, it's about precisely measuring the rate of change. It helps us understand, with mathematical certainty, how a key metric like profit will react if we adjust a variable, like the price of our product. It gives us the answer to maybe the single most important question in business optimization. If I change this one thing, just a little bit, what exactly happens over here? It's all about measuring the sensitivity and the immediate impact of our choices.
Now, this slide here gives us a fantastic analogy. I love this one. I want you to picture your company's potential profit as a big mountain. Your goal as a manager is to get your company to the absolute highest peak. Now, you could just wander around the foothills hoping you stumble onto the right path. Or you could use a tool. Differentiation is your business GPS. At any point on that mountain, it can tell you which direction is uphill, which change is going to increase profits, and crucially, it can pinpoint the exact summit, that one spot where the slope is zero, meaning you literally can't go any higher. That is the magic of finding the derivative and setting it to zero. It's the mathematical signal that you've found the peak of profit, or, for that matter, the lowest point in a valley of costs.
All right, so that's the theory. But, theory's pretty useless until it's applied. So let's make this tangible. Let's move to our first case and see how this actually works in one of the most critical decisions any business will ever face, setting the right price.
This is it. This is the classic business dilemma, the one that can make or break a product launch. And I want you to notice the specific goal here. You're not trying to get the highest possible price, because if you did that, you'd sell nothing. And you're not trying to sell the most possible units, because you might end up doing so at a loss. No, you are trying to maximize the combination of the two, total revenue. It's a very tricky balancing act, and it's precisely where a lot of businesses stumble, just by relying on guesswork.
Okay, let's break this down systematically. The goal, maximize total revenue. The risks are crystal clear. Price too high, your sales volume just collapses. Price too low, and you're leaving money on the table with every single sale. Now, the most common mistake, and I see this all the time, is just guessing or maybe copying a competitor's price. That's a reactive strategy, not a winning one. The superior proactive method uses differentiation. So here's how it works. First, you have to establish a demand function. That's just an equation built from your sales data that models how the quantity you sell changes as you change the price. With that, you can write a revenue function, because revenue is just price times quantity. So now you have a single equation for revenue. And here's the fun part. You take the derivative of that function with respect to price, set that derivative to zero, and you solve for the price. The number you get isn't a guess. It is the mathematically proven optimal price to maximize your revenue.
This is what completely transforms your ability to make decisions and to be a leader. Imagine you're in a strategy meeting. Without this tool, you might say something like, well, our competitor's at $49.99, so maybe we should try $48.99 and see what happens. Now, picture walking into that same meeting and saying, based on our demand model, the derivative of our revenue function is zero at a price point of $54.50. This is the optimal price to maximize revenue, and here's the analysis that proves it. Which argument do you think is more powerful? Which person is more likely to get the promotion? It's the difference between guessing and no.
Excellent. So we've applied this to bringing money in. Now let's use the exact same logic for another universal challenge: how you spend money. Let's take a look at resource allocation, specifically in the context of a marketing budget.
I want you to put yourselves in the shoes of a chief marketing officer for a minute. You've just been handed $1 million budget. You've got all these channels to choose from: Google Ads, social media campaigns, influencer partnerships, TV spots. How do you decide how much money goes where? This can't be about which channel you personally like the best. It has to be about getting the biggest possible bang for every single buck you spend.
So the big challenge here is a concept you've all heard of, the law of diminishing returns. The first $10,000 you spend on social media ads might bring in thousands of new customers, but the last $10,000 of a $500,000 spend, that might only bring in a handful. The common mistake is to either split the budget evenly or just keep pouring money into what worked last year. The analytically superior approach is to use differentiation to calculate the marginal return for each channel. Now, what is marginal return? It's simple, really. It's the return you get from spending one more dollar. The optimal strategy is to allocate your budget so that the marginal return from every single channel is equal. At that point, you know your next dollar has the exact same power no matter where you spend it. You've achieved maximum efficiency.
The result of this kind of analysis is a highly efficient, finely tuned budget where every single dollar is working as hard as it possibly can for you. I cannot overstate how critical this skill is for your careers. It doesn't matter what role you're in, you will eventually be responsible for a budget. And being able to justify your spending decisions with marginal analysis rather than just anecdotes or gut feeling, well, that makes you an incredibly valuable asset to any organization.
Okay, so we've looked at pricing to maximize revenue, and we've looked at budgeting to maximize efficiency. Let's just step back for a moment and synthesize all this to see the overarching strategic advantage that this kind of mathematical rigor really provides.
And this slide, it just drives the point home perfectly. On the left, you have business run by intuition. It leads to high-risk guesses, wasted resources, and missed opportunities. You're always left wondering if you could have done better. On the right, with differentiation, those guesses become data-driven decisions. Budgets are truly optimized. Profitability is methodically maximized. You shift from being reactive to the market to being proactive and actually shaping your outcomes with strategy.
So, if you take one thing away from our discussion today, please let it be this. Mathematics is not just a subject you have to pass to get your business degree. In the real world, it is the language of strategy. The ability to model a problem, to analyze it, and to find its optimal solution using tools like differentiation, that is what separates the good business leaders from the great ones. It is the skill set that allows you to see, to quantify, and to capture opportunities that your competitors, who are relying only on intuition, will completely miss. That is your ultimate competitive advantage.